Thanks for being with us for the news at 6 tonight. We're continuing the breaking news we've been covering all day here on KVUE. 19 Austin police officers facing charges tonight for their roles in the downtown Austin protests in May and June of 2020. Those protests happening following the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis by a police officer and the shooting death of Michael Ramos by an Austin police officer in April of 2020.
Many protesters say they were subjected to excessive force by APD officers, from chemical agents, kicks and hand strikes, and the use of less lethal rounds fired from shotguns. More than 30 people had to be taken to the hospital for severe injuries. And we've got team coverage this evening, and let's start with our senior reporter Tony Plahetsky, who's live with us here in studio.
Tony?
Quita and Brian, late this afternoon, we have heard two very different perspectives from the city's two leading law enforcement and criminal justice officials. On the one hand, Police Chief Joe Chacon says many of those protesters were violent and assaultive toward police officers. On the other hand, though, District Attorney Jose Garza says that many of those protesters were innocent victims who were left with lifelong injuries. Let's listen to what both had to say.
We believe many protesters injured by law enforcement officers during the protest were innocent bystanders. We also believe that the overwhelming majority of victims in the incidents that were investigated suffered significant and lasting injuries.
Officers were prepared for hundreds when instead they faced thousands, placing them in potentially the worst possible circumstances to manage escalating crowds. While certainly not every moment of the protest could be classified as a quote-unquote riot, there were significant portions of times that the crowds were riotous and violent.
Again, both of those perspectives really underscoring the difficult nature of what happened that last weekend in May 2020, and really underscoring as well how difficult this is expected to be for the Austin Police Department, for the community, and for protesters who were also impacted by what happened out there this weekend, or last in May 2020. So what can you expect going forward? Well, into the evening, overnight, and likely into tomorrow, we are expecting those 19 police officers to turn themselves into jail, into the Travis County Jail, to have their fingerprints taken, their mugshot taken before they are released on bond. Quita and Brian, I think a big question too in terms of what happens to their employment within the Austin Police Department, if Chief Joe Chacon will keep them on the streets as these criminal cases go through the criminal justice process, or whether or not he may remove them from the street. That is still an open question at this point, Quita.
Definitely a question some people want answered immediately. Senior reporter Tony Plahetsky, thank you.